Hi everyone, this is Lucette. I'm bringing you the healer point of view of our first kill of the Kor'kron Dark Shaman on flex mode. It's not a particularly difficult fight for the healers, but I figured I'd do a video on it anyways just so I can get a little bit more practice, because I haven't done one of these guys before. So bear with me a little bit on this one. Also, bear with the fact that I left one of my bags open for half the fight, because that was super cool of me. Alright, so the first thing we're doing here is we are taking down the shaman's mounts. We're doing this first because it does a lot of damage to the tanks, and it's completely manageable damage so long as we're focusing the tanks. There's really not any raid-wide damage happening at that point, so it's not too difficult. I have heard that on normal people have been using a cooldown, a single target cooldown on this fight at the beginning, which is perfectly acceptable because the next time you're really going to need cooldowns is right at the end, so you should have enough time for any cooldowns to come up again. So now we've split the two bosses up. The reason for doing this is it really helps manage all of their abilities. They have a whole bunch of abilities that drop stuff all over the floor, and if they're all together, it's really hard to avoid them. They give us a really nice big room to do all of this in, so might as well use it. The challenge for the healers on this one is range. There are healers assigned to each tank, and then the rest of us hanging out in the middle there are trying to heal the raid. For the first half of the fight, not too bad. I was able to just kind of hang out in the middle and kind of run back and forth a little bit, trying to keep all of the tanks in range and try to keep as many DPS in range as well. About halfway through, I'm not really able to do that anymore, so I just kind of picked a side and went there. I ended up choosing the side with John Hemlock and Slyban just because there was a bit more damage happening on that side, and it's got the boss, Haram, does an ability called Toxic Mist, which drops on 3 raid members that are close to Haram within his range, and it does ticking damage that increases with time. About the last 5-10 seconds are pretty heavy damage, so it's just nice to have an extra healer over on that side to take care of it. Otherwise, most of the damage comes from people standing in things. I think there's another ability in there that does raid-wide damage, but I don't really know what the name of it is. I was just kind of dealing with it as it came up. So the first totem that drops for this one, they do drop 3 different totems throughout the fight. The first one that drops is the Poison Mist totem, which gives you the big purple swirls that spawn the little purple swirls. The big ones are pretty slow moving, they just do damage if you step into them, so try to avoid that. The little ones move a little bit faster, but not crazy fast, so you don't really have to work too hard to stay out of them either. They do additionally throw you up in the air if you get caught in them, so just try to stay out of that. The second totem that drops is the Foul Stream totem. That drops a Foul Stream, I believe, and a Foul... I'm not really sure what the other one is. Foul Geyser. Drops the Foul Geyser. The Foul Geyser spawns some ads. I didn't really have to deal with that much, so I don't have a whole lot of information on that at this point on how to deal with that. I was more so on the Foul Stream side. The best thing you can do is stay out of it. Just a moment ago there I had it on me and I actually didn't handle it the best way I could have. You should really try to stand still if you have it. If there is somewhere you can go where you know you're not going to hit anyone, like against a wall or something, like try and get it to spawn into a wall, great, do that. If you're like me and you were kind of in the middle of the room, it would have been best to just stand still and let people get out of it and then deal with it afterwards. See, I'm gonna do it again, but this time I was actually being hit by a tornado at the same time, which was pretty clever. It's all perfectly manageable damage though, as long as people are staying out of it. The third totem that we have is Ash Flare. It, on one side, I believe it drops a great big meteor on people, which is apparently fairly easy to see the effect and get out of it. It is a big effect though, so you might want to use something to get you out of there a little faster. On this side we had the walls there of elementals. The way we dealt with it was John and Slyban were doing the best they could to spawn them into a wall, so that we really just didn't even have to deal with it. They were actually a really nice job on that throughout pretty much the entire fight, except closer to the end here. There is a time when we get a little bit trapped, but it's pretty easy to deal with that. It's not a solid wall, so you can just heal over it. If you had a situation where there was someone stuck on one side and you needed to get them over, we have enough priests in our raid group that I'm sure a life grip could be spared to pull them over, and apparently that doesn't do any damage if you do that. So I didn't try it, but it's worth a try at some point, I'm sure. Other than that, I guess I would suggest for priests, since that's the class I know the most about, your talent you'd want to pick for this one is Cascade. I liked it because, as you can see it kind of flying around there, it hits pretty much everybody in the raid when you use it, so it's nice for how spread out we are, because its range isn't based on where you're standing, it's based on where the last person who was affected by it is standing, and it tries to go pretty far. The Halo could also be good, but its effectiveness is limited by kind of where you're standing, and I'd say at best you'd hit half the raid with it. So if you were doing the strategy where you're all together, it would be perfectly suitable, but in this one I'd say I prefer the Cascade. Other than that, we're about to go into the 25% range here. What happens is an ability that I believe is called Bloodlust. When that hits, the bosses do significantly more damage, which is still manageable, but this is what you want to save your raid-wide cooldowns for, because it's a lot of raid-wide damage, it's a lot of damage on the tanks, but it's burn phase. We got through it pretty quickly. Not too terrible to deal with at all. I think we did a really nice job on it. Of course, there's always things that, in hindsight, looking at your videos afterwards, you're like, oh, I totally could have done that 1,000 times better. But I still think we did quite well to get him down as quickly as we did. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have for this. But yeah, great fight, lots of fun. If anyone else has anything to add, please feel free to comment. I'm always interested to hear kind of what the other healers have to say. I don't have a whole lot of experience with the other classes, so learning what your abilities do and how they can be used in these kinds of fights is always interesting to me. So yeah, just leave me some advice. If anyone has any advice on how I can maybe do my videos a little better, please feel free to comment with that too, because I'm just kind of winging it at this point. But yeah, that's everything I have for you. I hope it was helpful. Yeah, thanks. Bye.